Good evening, Mind Trippers, and thank you so much for joining us on yet another show. Tonight's topic is going to be talking about how and who we serve and the different ways coming from a coach and therapist perspective on what serving looks like in your life.
Exactly. So serving is a really big topic that, I think it's been on a lot of people's minds lately. Just trying to figure out like, okay, how can I give back, or how can I lead my community, or just lead others in my life? And I know Nikki and I kind of briefly set that up last week in the different ways we can do that. But today we definitely want to explore how to serve and who we can serve. So I did want to start out by sharing today's Bible verse of the week, and that is Matthew 20:28. Even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. Let's dig deep. What does that mean?
I automatically went to, like, I don't want to say the negative, but like a different perspective on that. So can I dig deep with you on that one?
Let's do it. Let's take the road less traveled.
There we always. So, I think, especially like you said, in this time, many people might be more compelled to try to serve and help, right? With the social unrest happening with there's the fires in California, there's COVID, there's like all of these things that people need serving. But I think I want to challenge, almost go to the way of like, there are times when we can serve that is detrimental to other people. And sometimes we serve in a way that's overbearing, in a way that's not accepted. So whether it's personal, professional, or community-based, what is that line of serving and being helpful or crossing it? And what does that look like? And what are some of the mindsets behind serving?
Right. So when I think about serving and just being able to do for other people in the community, especially when you were talking about like the social injustices and the fires and all that stuff happening, it makes me think of being hands-on and automatically like dropping everything that I'm doing right now to rush to help other people. But there's always this common phrase that many of us hear if we've ever flown on an airplane before. And I think for all those who watch our show weekly, I've said this saying before, but it's, you have to put on the mask on yourself before you can go and rush to help other people. To me, that means you have to make sure that you're in a certain place where you're stable, where there's some sort of consistency, and where you kind of know who you are, where you stand in your life, before you can actually interject and like truly fully serve in your purpose to other people.
Yeah, so that leads right in. The three things we're going to talk about tonight, again, like I said, are ways we serve ourselves personally, the way we serve others professionally, and community-based, right? And so like you had said, there's a big part of, we can only serve others when we are fully whole and we have served ourselves. And that comes from like such a, I think people assume, selfish standpoint, but the same goes with love. We talked about that in the love episode. You can't fully love someone else until you love yourself. And it's the same thing with serving. And then, I think where we kind of get stuck is that, especially in this society, we have, I think, this martyr mentality.
Absolutely.
So, I have to serve everyone else before I can serve myself, or I have to give every piece. I have to be this broken individual just, so that everyone else is whole. But we know psychologically, we know scientifically, that's not really how it works, right? It sounds great, like, I'm going to collapse into pieces while every part of me is with someone else, but that's not how it works.
I like that you mentioned the pieces part, because as you were talking about that, I was thinking about a puzzle. So the example of the mask on yourself before other people, I think that's a completed puzzle, like a completed 1,000-piece puzzle, because we know there's so many different parts to who we are and what makes us, right? But if you're not fully like able to build yourself up to being able to care for yourself, and that martyr mentality is kind of like taking away a piece of that puzzle every time. You're stripping yourself of things that are making you full. And I mean, it is noble, right? It's noble. Don't get us wrong, that it is noble to help other people, but you got to kind of weigh the cost benefit analysis of, is it going to be taking away from you and be detrimental to yourself?
Yeah, because I think, sacrifice is good to an extent, because but if the noble intent in your heart is truly to serve, then that is a long term, it's a long road. And so that you have to be healthy enough mentally and physically to be able to fully serve.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you go, go, go and give all of yourself, that's great, but we know that you're going to run short pretty quick. So if your goal is to really serve others, you're going to think about how can I serve for a lifetime and not how can I serve in this moment.
Exactly. So I think when you think about serving other people, kind of just digging deep within yourself and starting, okay, there's this saying, let me reverse a little bit. There's this saying that we posted to our Instagram account over the weekend as we were engaging in some self-care. Can't remember it verbatim, but I'll give you guys the premise. It's learning how to pour into yourself and give yourself everything in the same exact ways that you do for other people. And that is kind of like a skill and a task and a chore all in of itself. But just understanding, like, how can I build myself up and engage in self-care? Because that self-care alone is something that many of us just say, I'm good, I don't need it. And let me rush, be a martyr to, you know, sacrifice myself and help others around me, but it brings you down. So I think self-care does play a really big role in being able to serve others appropriately, effectively, and make lasting change.
Yeah, so so that's a guilt mindset centered around the martyr mindset, right? So that is one obstacle to serving others, because I'm sure all of you tuning in right now are here because you want to serve, as do we. Like, we all want to serve. And so Taylor and I want to dig into some of the obstacles that stop us from serving or stop us from serving as good as what we could be. And I think another big mindset, in addition to that guilt / martyr mindset too, is like, so like in therapy, we have like something that we talk about a lot, which is imposter syndrome. And I think that can be translated into serving too, of, well, I'm not qualified enough to serve.
Let's pause really quick, because imposter syndrome is crazy, and it encompasses so many different levels. And, I didn't even really myself find out what imposter syndrome was until you started sharing what it meant about a year ago with me. So because
I experienced some of that myself,
Can you explain to everybody watching what imposter syndrome is? Because I really feel like, and research shows, here we go, that women tend to suffer more than men when it comes to imposter syndrome. So what is that?
Yeah, so imposter syndrome can encompass, it's a spectrum. So I think the most core of it, the most obvious form, is when you don't feel qualified or good enough for what you're achieving. So whether it be, and what Taylor was experiencing is when we were starting, like with me, when we were starting the business, well, I don't have my PhD yet, I'm not qualified. And she's like, you are like, what do you mean? Like, I look up to you, you're my mentor. Like, what do you mean you're not qualified? I was like, well, I don't quite deserve this yet. That's also a part of imposter syndrome. I don't deserve success or what I want because I haven't paid enough dues, which kind of falls back into that guilt mindset too. It made me feel like I didn't have the capability or the knowledge or the skill set enough yet to do what I wanted to do. I
think with imposter syndrome, that's the biggest thing is a lot of people have this calling or this like purpose for their life, but they get held up with I don't have the experience, I don't have the education for it. But and that kind of leads me into a story that I want to share. On the side, I do trauma therapy with kids. And I have this one girl who shared with me this week that she really wants to be a mentor or a life coach to kids in Schaffner, which is a local detention center, who just have really been put through the ringer. They've experienced trauma. They've experienced every life, down that they could experience in their lives. So she's like, I want to go in. I want to give back. I want to be able to tell them there is a way out. I want to show them that you can overcome. Like, you don't have to live this life of delinquency or this life of uncertainty, if you will. But she was like, I don't want to go to school. She's like, I don't want to be in school for 10 years. She's like, I don't want to get my PhD. She's like, I'm just kind of struggling with that. And I told her, I was like, girl, you scored 10 out of 10 on the adverse childhood experiences quiz. You have a lot of experience and you know what you're talking about. I would much rather have a mentor who's gone through exactly what I'm seeking to get over or heal from than somebody who just graduated with a degree who knows nothing about trauma. So when you feel called to do something or you feel like God tells you this is your purpose, don't even question it. Whether you have the experience and education, don't question it. You just got to go for it.
Absolutely. And the experience and the education will come, whether it's formal, informal, and whatever situation that looks like. Like you said, if you are really feeling called upon to serve, that guilt mindset and that imposter syndrome mindset is what I think like you said, stops most people. Not that we always talk about serving with our coaching clients, we don't, but we do talk a lot about purpose in life.
Right.
And those are the two things that show up the most is feeling guilt or not feeling qualified. Time and time again, well, when X, Y, and Z happens, then I'll start. Or I really want to give back to the community eventually when I have this. And it's like, but why not now? Just because you don't have that, you need to tell me in all of your years of experience, you can't problem solve this one little obstacle to like adjust it so that you can do it now. I don't believe it.
I was gonna say that's the biggest.
Stop ourselves.
That's the biggest thing. People always feel like they have this purpose or this calling to serve, but now is not the right time.
Yep.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge. We see that so often, and it's just another way that you rob yourself or steal that joy from yourself.
And again, like you were talking about the mask, how can you fully serve others? Like, let's say, think about the people you're wanting to serve in whatever capacity that looks like. Do you think they would tell you, I would rather you wait 15 years before you can serve me until you have all your ducks lined up? Or, you know what, I'll take whatever you can give me right now. Any piece of you, even if you're still growing and developing, because we're always growing and developing. So like you said, there's never that right time to start. If you're feeling that calling to serve others, you absolutely have to get over that guilt and imposter syndrome mindset.
Yeah, I really agree. You just got to go for it. It's about building up your self-confidence and talking to yourself and having that inner voice. I know when we first started the show, we talked about cognitive behavioral therapy and that CBT triangle, where our thoughts connect to our behaviors, connect to our feelings. But it starts with your thoughts. Tell yourself that you have the tools that it takes. And again, to give you guys that quote, like when you're called to do something, when God calls you, he provides the tools. So you can just go for it. I feel like if you feel called to serve the homeless, if you feel called to be a soccer coach, if you feel called to be a life coach or a mental health therapist, go for it. Go for it. Do not, like you said, do not let imposter syndrome or that guilt or that anything get in your way.
And like you had started out with the first step in doing that, maybe you're not even sure what your calling is. You want to serve, you don't know what capacity, or like you said, like there's something holding you back. Engaging in self-care. And I'm not talking about like getting a bath and lighting a candle, like sure, if that's your thing, fine. But we're talking about, what does self-care look like? Does it mean being around other like-minded people? Does it mean doing social advocacy work? Does it mean taking a hike and sitting on top of a mountain by yourself and just letting the universe speak to you, right? Whatever form of self-care that lights you up and inspires you, engage in that and engage in it consistently for a couple of weeks. It doesn't mean you can do it every day, but as much as you can, and then those answers will start to come and you'll get that clarity, and then you'll be able to, in that way, serve yourself and then truly serve other people.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to take it back to a session that we had actually earlier with one of our coaching clients. You just reminded me of it when you said, go into nature. Sometimes you have to, what did I say earlier? You have to change your perspective to change your perspective. With coronavirus, pre-coronavirus, our homes used to be this place where we can come home, rest, relax, rejuvenate, all the good things. But now our homes have become school for our kids. They've become our offices. They've become, you name it. It's become everything except being able to relax, rejuvenate. You got to change your perspective. And whether you guys are nature people, like you said, go out in nature, sit on a rock, overlook. Where's that place that we went, Hawk Rock?
Yeah, and I think even if you're not a nature person, there's still something to be said for being connected to other living, breathing things.
Exactly.
Even if it's trees, like just literally breathing in something. Even if it's not your jam, make it your jam for a day.
Try it.
Yeah.
Change your perspective so you can change your perspective. And I really feel like when you're by yourself, answers come to you, or you start to gain clarity. You'll learn what your purpose is or what your meaning in life is and how you can give back and truly serve wholly to your community.
Absolutely.
So what's the next?
So we talked a lot about serving ourselves, because like we said, you have to start there. And I'm sorry, I'm going to backtrack real quick on that example. So we were giving that example to the client earlier today, because Taylor and I, with our families, close families and siblings, took a trip to the Poconos this weekend. And because I've had some stuff going on, so has she. I think we just needed to be around like the people we love the most, laptops away.
Oh my gosh,
for
yes.
a weekend. And I came back to work Monday afternoon, and I know I was able to serve so much better this week. I've been on it. I think I was more, I know I was more productive. I was, I felt more energized. Like I've made it through, it's already Wednesday evening and I've just been, I didn't have that one lag in the day where I wanted to take a nap. And generally every day I always want to nap.
It's crazy. She texted me yesterday. She's like, I got meetings from like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. She's like, I'm on it. I feel rejuvenated. She's like, I can go until like midnight. I'm like, okay, Nikki, let's get it. Let's get it. I was able to recharge you.
Because I served myself this weekend and I didn't feel guilty about it. Like I didn't call anyone. Like I said, I didn't open my laptop. Like I needed that for myself. My puppy learned to experience hiking for the first time and I saw joy in a dog's face, which if you don't believe me, that's fine. I feel like I saw joy in my dog's face experiencing new things and I needed that to rejuvenate myself. And so in serving yourself, that's when you can most serve others. And I think we just have to keep that in mind that we're going to switch that mindset that it's not selfish. It's really selfless because if your goal is to serve, you have to be your best self.
I agree. Kind of got to get over that hump. And I think American society or Western society in general wants you to focus on being selfish, wants you to focus on all your needs, put yourself first for wrong reasons, if you will. But if you're trying to, again, be effective in serving others, you really have to put that mask on yourself first, guys. You have to. And then you'll be able to really give back in the way that is powerful and life-changing to those in your circle or those in your community.
So speaking of people in our community, I'm going to go a different route.
Let's do it.
So like you said, serving others is very noble and we know the intent is good. But serving others also comes with the caveat of some people do not want to be served. And when you try to serve people who don't want to be served, you end up being more detrimental in that person's life. And that is selfish. So when you want to serve so badly that and we'll dig deep into this in a minute, but when you want to serve it so badly that you're not really engaging the receptiveness of the person you're trying to serve and the person you're trying to help, and you just keep going and going and going, that is actually where you become a very selfish person because you're doing it for your own needs and wanting to help so badly and not truly for the needs of someone else.
Right.
So let's talk more about that.
That, my friends, is called the mechanic mindset. Right? The mechanic mindset is just where you can see the problems in everybody else. You can diagnose it before they even know what it is.
You get stuck on those details, right? The little nuts and bolts of it.
And when we were working through this mechanic mindset a little bit earlier today before the show, you brought up a really good analogy. And that's kind of like where you bring in your car for an oil change. And then the mechanic's like, yeah, we got you an oil change, but you actually need new tires, you need new brakes, windshield wipers.
Well, we got a new interior. We changed out your cloth interior for leather. Like I updated it for you.
Right. And it's just
But you didn't need it. Like we just did it for fun, just in case.
Right.
It looks like you might have needed it like in a few years, or you know what, these wheels look better. I upgraded you to a fancier version.
Exactly. So it's kind of like you took the liberty of fixing and problem solving for other people when they didn't even ask for it.
Right.
You took the liberty to serve, which I don't know if I want to call it selfish, but it is selfish. Like it just comes from this place where you're like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and fix that for this person because they need it and they're going to thank me for it.
So here's the thing. The noble intent is still there.
Right.
Like you don't go into that situation saying I'm going to be selfish.
Right.
The noble intent of wanting to serve is there, but you do it to such a capacity, like you said, it actually, if you really dig deep and you don't get defensive and tear down and become vulnerable, it's very selfish.
I find sometimes that many of us, and some of you watching too are probably going to be like, I kind of identify with that mechanic mindset. Where I think that comes from is sometimes I think we struggle within ourselves to fix some faults and foibles. Is that the word, foibles? F-O-I-B-L-E-S. I don't know. I saw that word somewhere that it was similar to fault. But anyway, we see faults in other people that we have ourselves and we can't quite address. So we project. And we project. And that's where that the mechanic mindset comes in. We want to fix problems in other people because kind of it means we fix those problems in ourselves.
And two, if someone, let's say comes to you, like a friend comes to you for financial advice. I'm the terrible on the spot analogies, I feel like. Let's say they came to you for financial advice, but in that discussion, they're talking to you about their significant other and you being married for 20 years have so much great advice to give this young person. but you start to become overbearing. Again, you are no longer serving that person. And it comes back to, in life, we have to meet people where they are. As therapists, as coaches, as friends, as mentors, anything, you have to meet people where they are. If you're always trying to meet them at your level, it's very off-putting, and again, you're no longer actually serving them. So in order to truly serve, just like putting the mask on yourself first, you have to meet people where they are first. And being able to gauge your audience in that way is really key.
Thinking about all of that reminds me of a skill we kind of introduced when we talked about what love is versus what love isn't, and that's the listen, fix it. You can still somewhat have that mechanic mindset, if you will, if you're asking that person first, like, what do you need in this moment from me right now? Like, how can I best serve you? What can I do that's going to make the biggest impact on your life right now? Do you just need to vent and just have me listen? Or do you need me to get into that problem solving mode and we're going to figure out how to fix this problem you're throwing at me?
I love that you just said that. If you really want to serve someone, ask them how they want to be served. Even if it's not how you envisioned it, even if you could do so much more to enhance this person's life, that's great. But if they're not ready for it, again, it comes, like we talked about this in the communication episode. Communication is not just how you speak, it's how you match to your audience, because you can only be heard on how the receiving end of it is hearing it, right? And so just like with serving, someone can only make positive change in the way that they're wanting and able to be served. And that is on you to adjust that. But I think, it's easy when we talk about love or communication, but people, when it comes from such a noble intent of serving, like we put those blinders on, like, well, these rules don't apply because like my cause is so good and I'm a good person. And so I don't have, the same rules don't apply, but they do. And I think that's a hard thing to overcome, because I know I was overbearing in how I served, because the intention was so good and my heart was so full. But I had to learn how to, again, meet people where they are. And even now, to this day, it's something I have to check myself on. Even as a coach, I'm like, oh my God, I could fix so many areas of this person's life. I'm like, although we are able to kind of do that in our professional capacity, it's still pacing and meeting them where they are and slowly getting them to where I can envision them. So it's something we always, it's a growing model for all of us all the time.
And I do want to jump back to what you just said with like the coaching and everybody having their own journey at their own pace. If we truly have that mechanic mindset, because I really feel like God has given both of us the gift to be able to see the problems in people and be able to put them on that path towards healing or towards fixing whatever they need to be fixed. But if we rushed to that problem immediately to fix it for them, like, how is that truly serving them?
Oh, they would drop out immediately.
Right, because we can be a powerful combination. We got the boxer and we got the cheerleader, but sometimes both of us going hard at a client we know would be super intense. So we take our time, we build up, we highlight key themes, key behavior patterns, so that the person that we're serving as coaches or in therapy is able to really grasp the concepts and really see the light at the end of the tunnel, if you will.
Yeah, so when you're thinking about how to serve your community, think about, where is this person at? And if you're not sure, ask them, how can I best serve you right now? And you may not like the answer. It may not be what you had envisioned, but it's not about you. You serve others, and that's the key.
Got a quote for you guys, because of course, Nikki and I are the queen of quotes. When we seek to discover the best in others, we somehow bring out the best in ourselves. So, and that kind of really sums up this mindset that we just talked about. When we really seek to make other people better, we start to see, the positive qualities in ourselves and how we can really put that mask on ourselves and then go help other people around us. Love that quote. Love that quote.
So transitioning into our last way that we serve others today, we can talk about how we professionally serve others. And this ties into kind of the topic we had over the past few weeks of having your purpose and making sure your purpose is aligned. But also you can serve others professionally even if you're not working in the field of your purpose. So let's get us rolling on that.
So I have the perfect example. So as we talked about earlier with the imposter syndrome, sometimes you feel called to do something, but you're not where you need to be. And I know we talked about education not being a thing to get in your way, but I'm going to use it in this example here. I know, I'm going to backtrack a little bit, but here, watch this. So let's say you are putting yourself through college and you're working a part-time job or a full-time job at Giant, and you have this idea that you want to be a mental health therapist. And of course, nowadays it kind of takes like a bachelor's degree, a master's degree to actually be able to become that. But you shouldn't let yourself get down if you are working at Giant or in retail, whatever it is. Open yourself up, have those conversations with people at the cash register or on the sales floor. Get to know them. Figure out like how you can best serve them in that moment that they're there. Because sometimes, we talked about this over the last few shows. Just sometimes when you're sitting somewhere like in the ER, like when I was in the ER before I got married 2 years ago, people just came up to me and were talking to me. And I served them and what they needed, and I helped them through that. So sometimes you don't necessarily need to be in your purpose of life to serve.
And if you are not even sure what your purpose is yet, you can still serve professionally as well by, I think, really just having that empathy and being vulnerable enough to share your ups and downs and to understand and respect other people, even if you don't agree with their point of view. And I think we always say that, well, like I can always listen, even if I disagree, but very few times have I heard someone or people practicing just listening despite a complete nonsensical, like different point of view.
Right.
And so again, having the vulnerability to have empathy and stand in someone else's shoes and have difficult conversations in a kind and clear way, you can start that in your workplace right now, which is a true sign of leadership.
Absolutely.
Right? Sitting through and having difficult conversations in a respectful, coherent, clear way that's full of clarity is one of the biggest ways you can serve, because that affects everyone. Right? That is like whether, like you said, you're at Giant, you're in the mental health field, and you're at a car dealership, you're at a package delivery service, it does not matter where you work. When you can serve others that way, it really does have this top-down effect that can really be life-changing for your community.
I really agree with that, and it really reminds me of that love thy neighbor that we dug so deep into last week. What she is saying is some of those ideas of Brene Brown. I'm not sure if many of you guys have heard about her, but clarity is kind, like just being upfront and being vulnerable and sharing sometimes what your goals are, what your mission is, and how you seek to serve other people. I feel like that's going to bring everybody to you, and you're going to be able to help in that way. You're going to be able to touch lives in that way, no matter what career field you're in.
Yeah. And again, having conversations that aren't easy doesn't mean it's a controversial topic. Having difficult conversations means it's difficult for you. For whatever mindset, past traumatic experiences, it's difficult for you. And so being able to properly sit through that. And there's all kinds of key communication skills you teach. And there's a whole art behind that. But to get started in sitting in that vulnerability is going to be key. And again, you'll be surprised at how well you can serve others just by leading in that way.
I 100% agree with that. So guys, today we talked about all the different ways that you can serve in your professional life, in community, and in your personal life. If you guys are still struggling to understand how you can serve or what your purpose is, Nikki and I currently do have, 2 openings right now? We have 2 openings for the month of September. We would love to have a consultation with you, love to get you started on your journey towards self-exploration and just figuring out how you can literally serve yourself and serve others and live in your purpose. I mean, it's time for you to stop robbing yourself of joy. It's time for you to stop being full and clouded. You need clarity. Like, you need to come out of all this that you've been suffering under and be happy. I think now is the time.
Absolutely. Why not?
Why not? Why not? So guys, if you haven't already, please follow us on Instagram at BKLLC19 and our Facebook page, Bryant Katsaounis Life Coaching.
And visit our website at www.visiondrivencoaching.com.
Right. As always, Mind Trippers, thank you for joining us this week, where we explore the connections between mindsets and mental health. And we'll see you next Wednesday at 4:30.
We hope we served you in some kind of positive way today. Thank you.
Have a great week, guys.